Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AI for Anyone Live, the weekly live show from the Human Stack, where we make AI accessible and actionable for nonprofits and social impact organizations. I'm Sami Zoss.
And I'm Tim Lockie, and today is our May finale. So this is May Day, Human After All. It's our end of the month jam session, and we're building something together, a live map of where humans stay, where AI assistants assist, and where the handoff lives. Sami, let's get to it.
We've got the air horn back.
I was so missing the air horn.
I know you were.
So much.
Welcome back, everybody. I don't know why, but the theme, like the title May Day, really just excites me today. So we're gonna have some fun.
May Day? Is that like
Yes.
like because there's an emergency or something, or just like?
I mean, that's the play on it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
I think.
All right. Yeah, right. I have to say it 3 times though for it to be real, I think.
Yeah, which is why you can see my comment on LinkedIn.
Help doesn't come.
Yes. Help doesn't come. Sorry, you only said it twice. We gotta go.
Exactly. Totally.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Right.
1 second. You can hear my dog just squeaking her toy in the background, and apparently none of my like background noise suppression works on Restream. I don't think any of it does. So we'll see how that works today.
Right, yeah.
How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm glad that it's the end of May. It has been a crazy month, and I have hit the level of working with AI on Cloud Code where I'm like, oh, I need some humans, like, because I am spending so much time with it. But I'm building cool stuff, as are you, by the way. I love the work that you've been doing, so can't wait to show people that.
Been having some fun.
But yeah, I'm good.
Down a little. Well, really quick, I know this is sort of like the live show for our 101 or our literacy practitioners, but give us just like the on the spot 101 take of what you're building, right? Like tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, good question. I'm building 4 different things because I'm ADD, so I'm just going to do like a bunch of stuff.
I don't think they call it ADD anymore, just so you know.
Okay.
You've said that for like a year, and I was thinking about at some point I'm going to have to tell them I don't think that's an official diagnosis anymore.
Oh, really?
Fun fact.
What is it?
ADHD.
Oh, yeah, I don't have the H. So
we'll have to look into it.
I know, exactly. Anyway, doesn't really matter. So I'm building something called Cadence, which allows me to kind of to see how clients are working through the work that they do. That's the thing I'm most excited about. I'm continuing to build out the diagnostic, which helps assess if clients are ahead of their tech or the tech is ahead of clients, and then benchmarking that for authorized partners. So that's on the external side. On the internal side, I'm building what I'm calling the Hoardinator, which is just a massive database that hoards everything. And I am now building all of the chains to like these chains that take action one after the other to create a current state for every client, what they're doing, what the services we provide are, what the value we create is, and it creates a current state update based on every new input that comes in. So
Jesus, just a little bit, just a few things.
But here's what's really interesting. I've hooked all of that up to Postgres, so I'm not just relying on MD files, which has been driving me crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna get like a sound effect that's like the
You're the one that asked for it.
No, but I'm gonna get a sound effect that's like I'm gonna call it dumb it down, and I think we're gonna have to
the easy button.
Sort of like, okay, Postgres MD files, Tim, ahead of our literacy crew here, myself included.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay, no, look, good question. What happens with Claude in Cowork too is that it puts these instructions into a file, right? And then every time it's going to do something, it reads these instructions. And if it doesn't read the instructions well, or if they go over actually 200 lines is kind of the magic number, then it gets confused. It doesn't read them all the way through. It forgets what it's doing. And these could be really, really important things. The way that you stop it from just, or the way that you direct its attention, if you have a lot of things, is to tell it which row in a database to read instead of reading a whole document.
So like a cheat sheet, like a table of contents cheat sheet almost. Like if I'm looking in the encyclopedia, which do people even know what that is these days?
Yeah.
If I'm looking in the which is actually funny because I've made Tim re-explain this to me a few times, because sometimes I like to just see if I can catch him in the pretending he knows more than he does, which most of the time I don't, but sometimes I'm hoping I can.
Yeah.
But it's also because I have to hear things a few times, right? Like I know how to build a full database in Postgres, and I don't realize I'm using Postgres, right? Like that's where I think AI is awesome, but it's hard to ask people to slow down and teach me the mechanics that I'm missing, because I can leapfrog some of them. And so this is the first time I've thought about it like this, which is you've got the encyclopedia and you're looking at the table of contents to figure out where to start looking for the thing, right? Because otherwise you're asking that AI to read the whole encyclopedia for this one little bit instead of going all the way in. So you said that's Postgres, or is that Postgres is better at that? Because YAML is what I thought that was. So and then we're going to have to stop talking like this, because otherwise people are going to be like, this is not what I thought it was. Yeah, I swear we're getting into other things.
YAML stands for yet another markdown language.
Yes, we learned that on AI4AnyoneLIVE. That's so fun.
Yeah. So Postgres just means database. That's all it means.
So why do you use Postgres? Like, why do you say Postgres?
I don't know. I don't know why they do it. I do it because I've been reading it so many times that's what's front of mind when I say it. So I don't think database anymore. Now I think Postgres, because there's different types of databases and because Postgres is specific to what you can functionally do with it. But you're right, it's database. And you're exactly right. It's like my wife and I almost ran out of gas. And we were on the, where the dot comes up on the gas thing. And we were like away from people, like we were out in off grid, right? So I was worried about it. So I said, pull out the manual and see if we can figure out how much gas we've got, right? So you go to the back and you look at like gas gauge and tank, and it takes you a while to figure out exactly which thing.
Yeah.
Then it says, go to this one page and look for this one, right? And so that is essentially what I'm doing. Is every page, it is a different row in a database, and it says, if you see an email, then go to this page and say, and then find the organization, and then say what's happening with this organization, then read the email, and then say what's the current state.
Okay, I'm down.
That makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. And Gabriel did ask. He asked, how do you slice and dice chunk the data for the use case? I don't know the answer to that, and some of that to me is like, we could get into it, but I wonder if your answer is similar to mine, Tim, which is there is an answer. It's a pretty complicated answer, and the best our version answer is that's where AI kind of comes in. AI does a better job of reading a roadmap if you lay out a good roadmap, basically.
Yes, I've been building this for about 4 months now to do exactly that.
Yeah.
So
Gabriel, what I guess I would say, sorry, Tim. I guess what I'm hearing Tim say is spend a lot of time, similar to your giant Salesforce instance, anything in between, crap in, crap out, right? So spend the time making sure that your data is clearly queryable. And what that can mean is just make sure your data is clear, however you're putting it in. Like what Tim's doing, he's trying to sort of like preempt some of the search needs and some of the iterations there. But if you're just building a simple database that you want to call back, like I have one called the Z Drive, and there's a whole table in the Z Drive just for like random thoughts of mine. That's a really hard to query database. I do it intentionally, so I just have somewhere to store all the things. But if I want to query it, I have to kind of say like, okay, on this day, like check my calendar. It was around this day. I know I was in a meeting with Tim and I added this thought. Can you remind me about it? Like I have to be very clear in my query because I wasn't very clear in the data that I was inputting. Do you kind of, I mean, I think there's a more complicated sort of like algorithmic math answer there, but in my mind, that's sort of like the simpler way to explain it.
Yeah. And I would say this is not what most people should be doing. Like this is after spending over a decade consulting in tech and working on 100%. A lot of it, right? Like this is like really challenging for me. And so I would say exactly what you're doing, Sami, is what people should do. Actually get Claude, use CoWork, and just tell Claude, onboard this client, create an MD file, put the client file into a Google Drive, and then connect this client with that Google Drive and this email address so that every time you get something from this client, you go to that Google Drive and you ask it what's going on with it. That is how CoWork works, and it does really, really well. I just wanted something a little more robust.
And I think that's something, Tim, we should do sort of like maybe sometime this summer we'll do an advanced month where it's like not necessarily upskill rate or fluency, but let's get into Claude Code and talk about how we play and the random things we're doing in there. I think folks have an appetite for that, to be able to see it and in the Claude interface versus like if we're looking at your terminal or VS Code, like that can just get really overwhelming. Yeah. And I've actually had a new obsession with the Claude console, which is all web-based. And I can't wait to tell you more about that anyway.
Oh, so, I can't wait to see it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gabriel, that's a great question. Bonnie,
yes, thank you.
So great to see you. Glad that you're calling in from Brooklyn. So welcome.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Why did I was going to go Brooklyn. That's Richmond. Don't know why I was thinking that, but it's fine.
Also, it's I want to say one other thing, which is AI should hit you at the level that you're at. So don't compare what I'm doing to what other people are doing. Like find your own way.
Well, and we've talked about it. I mean, all of May has been about sort of being able to troubleshoot your own things. And that's actually one thing that Tim is really good at in sort of like pillars. But what he's mentioned many times this month is how difficult it is for him to get a full workflow together and then ship it. And so things that could be really simple for you all, which is, well, it's pretty much there, let's just go, are actually really difficult for someone like Tim, who's going to overthink the mechanics of all of it every time. I mean, Tim and I have spent almost all of May trying to figure out like, what is the process to start the process to get him learning to get past that, or set up the right systems around him to get past that. Straight up.
Yeah.
So don't let our affluence in like technicality here make you think you are like behind or less than, because it's just a different skill set for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's right. And Gabriel, yes, on semantic search, I got to say, I keep running into problems where semantic search doesn't understand what's actually happening. And so, yeah, I think that, again, what you're like, CoWork is the key for all of that, even in some of the stuff that I'm doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Let's figure out. I mean, summer months, people are kind of more watching on demand than in, live all of the time. And so let's figure out what that looks like. I want to get into a little bit of an overview about last week and sort of about the last bit of the month here. So what we're trying to do each month is kind of, I'm trying to build the months out to be leading up to sort of a nice culmination at the end of the month, so we can kind of show how it all comes together. You should be able to hop into any episode and really learn something from the episode, even if you haven't seen the previous weeks. And I say that because I hope you guys just pop in when you can and when you want. But I'm trying to make it so folks could, if they've got a couple hours, they could sit down and really go through the month of May and learn what we were teaching throughout the month about how to make sure the human stays front and center in AI, right? Which is what May has been about. Fine-tuning, or not fine-tuning, that's next month. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
So I just want to clarify sort of like why we do a little bit of what we do and why like the 4th week of the month is my favorite. I've decided the 5th weeks of every month are bonus weeks where I'm just going to bring in like unhinged, unrelated to literacy. Like we'll bring in Mallory from Practivated to talk about what she's got going on. Or I've got another tool called Grant Loop that I think everybody's going to really love. Or we'll talk about what Cadence is looking like and how you built it. Like those are going to be your unhinged, sort of not related to theme week. So we're starting to see how this all comes together. And it only took me a year. And I got to be honest, it's been a really fun year and we're just going to kind of keep rolling with it. So a little bit about last week. What we were able to talk about was sort of like that human, we talked about the culture costs of the rate of handoff with AI, the manageable, watch closely, this has a high cost levels of what it is to adopt AI. And we're seeing this, I actually had somebody call me like a day after last week and say, it's really funny that was the episode that you did. And this person, so I'll have to tell you about it later. But they were like, I was in an all company meeting and they were talking about AI and how they were going to be able to do this. And it came in the same voice of like, so we should be able to double output or we should be able to do this. And she giggled because she was like, I was literally just listening to a podcast about how it is okay to expect increased or enhanced efficiency. It is not okay to not consider the costs that come with that increase or enhanced efficiency. And so that was kind of where we went last week. Any kind of notes you wanted to bring through about last week, Tim?
No, I had a similar experience where I realized that for a specific client I'm working with, instead of optimizing for speed, we're optimizing for stewardship, which is a different take than I've seen before. And I just think that part of the question is, what are you optimizing for? Because I think that there's just kind of an inherent assumption that the optimization model is going to be efficiency and speed, but that's not always going to, like, there are other things to optimize for. So,
oh my gosh. And then that cost analysis becomes something completely different, right?
Absolutely.
Because
it changes.
You're not measuring cost against ROI. You're measuring cost against stewardship, which is in and of itself a hard to quantify ROI, but an obvious one nonetheless. Oh, I love that. That'd be a really fun. We should talk to that org about being one of our like week 5 bonus episodes. That'd be really fun. And go through some of these same like exercises, but with the idea that we're optimizing for stewardship, not efficiency or for something else. It'd be very interesting.
Well, and it also changes if the underlying optimization model is impact, that might not always be speed, right? I feel like that's the framework under the sand, or under the ground that we're walking on that changes a lot of this is what's the framework from which, we're optimizing.
Interesting. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think, but if you don't have the kind of work that you were doing last week, even if you have a different optimization model, you still don't have the supports to evaluate that.
I think I know what you're saying, but can you just add a little bit of flavor to that?
So what you were doing last week is we were looking through and we were saying, okay, if we do save this time, what are the new expectations? That has to be in relation to a framework, right? So expectations related to what, time savings related to what do we get from this? And I think that there's just an inherent, more time equals more value, but value is really, really different per organization, per role. And so there's a wider analysis on what does that mean. It's the stuff we got into, but we didn't name last week, I guess is one way to say it.
Gotcha. Yep. I love that. I'm actually writing that down if you can't tell.
Cool. Hey.
Okay. So that's all about last week. I need to make sure I switch my controls here. I want to talk to you guys about this week and sort of all about May, right? I do love who said it here. Oh, it was okay. Gabriel or Gabriel, you'll have to let us know if like we're incorrect here. But he said that he just keeps singing the Justin Timberlake, It's Gonna Be May, which I really feel like I missed an opportunity here. So I'm a little sad thinking about the fact that I didn't do anything with that. How like tragic.
It's just like sitting right there.
Yes. So a little bit into, and I'm going to switch scenes here. Sorry, my screen's a little smaller, and so I apologize. It just takes me a second. There we go. I I'm trying to avoid the like 8 screen dumb that I want to get into because my neck is already trash. And we don't need to keep adding to it, you know? But I am so excited. So this is kind of today I've got like a human layer map where it kind of pulls in like, what's the workflow we're mapping? What are the steps? Where does each workflow step live? Which zone, right? Where the human stays, where the AI assists, or where the handoff lives. And then at the end, it kind of helps us rate how heavily each cost is showing up. So it's like the artifact to combine all artifacts, right? Which, as our regular listeners know, as Tim knows, which is why he's giggling, like, I am an artifact girly. Tim, I think I'm going to say it here and now for like, so we're building out sort of like what the AI4AnyoneLIVE part of the Human Stack website looks like. Uh-oh. So
Bless
sorry.
you. Get a little sneeze.
Oh, it's so like, I'm such a loud and zany person, and then my sneezes are so like tiny and dainty, and it just does not collaborate at all. It does not coordinate. Anyway, I would love to make like a glossary. That's what I'm saying. I want to say it here now, but like, so when I say things like artifact, I don't want us to have to redefine it each time. But given that we are the literacy channel and we are you can show up and know nothing and you'll learn, I want to make sure that we stay accessible in that way. And so I'm trying to figure out like, what does that look like? Because then I can just put a ticker up of like, want to know what some of these words mean. And I'm not going to put Postgres in there. I'm going to make you explain Postgres every time, but I will put artifact in there, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, because like also on the site, we want these artifacts.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be great. I think it's great.
What were you going to say, Tim? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think that it goes back to, it'd be great to post show notes. Right?
Yes.
So the background work that you're doing can have like a longer shelf life on it. So yeah, I think that'd be great.
When I think May was kind of the first month where we had consistent artifacts that bring everything through each week that I could see it coming through. And honestly, it's the first month where they were like branded the way I would want them to be.
No, they're really cool. They're amazing. Yeah.
So let's talk about the human layer, right? So like we said, at the bottom of this, we've got all the way down here, we've got week 1, which is the human layer, week 2, which was trust, and week 3, which is our culture cost. I'm going to make sure. Tim, how am I doing on size here? Do I need to zoom in a little bit more?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that's good right there. Yeah, I can read that.
I'm going to move us for just a moment so people can see where I'm highlighting here. So down here at the bottom of my artifact, I've got sort of the May I Be Human month. And it's built from all 3 weeks. So we're gonna start up at the top here.
This is so cool.
Oh, it's so fun. And to tell you guys, like while I was building this, some of the things that which, hey, as I'm chatting here, if you, Gabriel, especially, I know I don't see you in very often. If you've got a workflow you want us to go through and map, right? So like this one, do you want to map a donor thank you process, a grant application process, something like that? Like, let me know and we'll work through it live here. But while I was building this, Tim, I was asked, and this is, I think, a conversation a little bit for today and then for another day, but in the human aspect of it, I was asked, like, do you want to build essentially an artifact that is right? So I can load an example, I can clear it, I can save it, and then it'll actually download it as it's supposed to download as a PDF, but I think it just downloaded as a JSON on accident. Things that because my goal is then that we put these up on the website and they're usable for people, right? So my question, or the question that AI was kind of asking me as I was having it help me build this was, hey, a one-time use, do you really need all of this? Like, does it really need to be interactive, or can it just be a blank template that you can just reiterate? And it made me think, like, what is the purpose of some of these that I'm building versus the others? And this one I did ask for the example and the clear and the, like, here I can put, a test step in, and then you drag it to, it's where the human stays or where, right? Like, and I can get why it was like, hey, this is quite a bit to just think about. But for me, I was like, this is where someone could hop on, actually map their stuff out, and then they can just hit save. And it saves a nice little PDF for them. And it's got everything we talked about this month. But it was a real human and ethical consideration of, is this the right use of the technology, the electrical churn, the AI token credit usage, all of those things. And I say that not because I really thought I had the right answer. I don't know if I chose the right answer, but I think it's really important that you and I, and this is something you and I have always done, is we always talk our folks through, like, what are some of these questions that we're constantly asking ourselves? When does AI ask, push back in good ways? When do we think it just like totally caves to our will, and everything in between, right? So I thought you'd find that very interesting, because I was trying to debate, like, should I just do an HTML blank template that we put up on the website? And I'm glad I didn't. I think this is the right way to go, an interactive artifact for folks to be able to use, but it's because I want the tool. And maybe I need to take more note at the beginning of the month, and it's less interactive, and maybe the end of the month is the more interactive tool that we put up, so it kind of all comes together. Just things like that we're constantly churning, learning, deciding, changing our mind. Like, I bet if you would have told me a year ago we were here, I would like be so shocked at where we've come, and shocked at some of the decisions we used to make versus what we do now, and all those things. So Gabriel said he's got to drop for a call, but one scenario he's heard, assuming gender there, one scenario they've heard is needing research on how local policies might affect a target population that a nonprofit services. Ooh.
Yeah. That's
interesting workflow. Let's try it, right? Gabriel, I know you've got to go.
Before we move on,
go ahead.
Well, you just said something here that I feel like people need to know, which is the question you're asking right there. Like, how do we build this? What does it do? Like, what's the value after the time I use it, etc. The fact that anyone can be asking those questions now should be a massive signal to the world about how things have changed in a year, because those are developer level questions that would be asked by a solution architect way like at the outset, and then every step along the way of a major build. And now they're just getting asked, as people are starting to build. And that means two things. One, we have to start paying attention to what others have done that can lead us in that. And two, understand that the value is shifting on who does what and where and how and what. So I just want to note that. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, actually. But you're and then the question after that is, okay, if you build this workflow, then does it connect to anything else in your organization? And if you pull that thread enough, you end up with a coordinator like me.
Okay, you've got 60 seconds, but you're gonna need to explain the coordinator because no one knows what that is.
Oh, coordinator. Okay, I have a database that I can put anything into from all the different systems I use. Every conversation I have, every email that comes in, all the documents, and like an index of all the documents I have, everything, and everything. So it just hoards information from everywhere.
Why it's called the coordinator.
Hoards, and then it coordinates. So it hoards and coordinates. So it coordinates all of my work.
That's so funny. I love
it. Because that is the issue, is where like all these signals are happening all across every channel. And there's so many, it's really hard to consolidate. So I just built a consolidation database for all the signals.
Well, and similar to like my thoughts one, where it's like, it doesn't have to be perfectly queryable. I would rather have it capture than be perfect.
And here's the thing is that you can make it perfect later, but you can't recapture later. And that's what I'm finding, is that stuff that I put in 2 years ago is now finding purchase. Yeah.
Yes.
Is now finally like coming to be really helpful. So.
All right. Well, let's map a youth services nonprofit researching how local policies, both former and current, affect the population it serves. Pro tip, I have a chatbot on the side that I have prepped for in case this exact scenario happens, where I need to map out a workflow that I'm either not familiar with, or I need to do it live. And I need to make sure that you all aren't sitting here seeing me just think. So for what it's worth, I don't suggest just going straight to AI and saying, get me the workflow steps for this. But if you have blank page syndrome, and so you're like, I know what I do, but I just don't know how to get it on paper, the first step definitely is to say to AI, I know what I do in this workflow, but I don't know how to get it on paper. Can you help me? And then the second step is there anything you think I'm missing, and everything in between, right? So I want to be clear that there still needs to be a human kind of entering these steps, thinking them through. I'm actively doing this process for our weekly live show. So I do everything, like we do everything from like Tim and I meet and decide a monthly campaign. And then we decide the weekly skills that we want to try and improve each week. And I have a spot where we both need to verify that that has been agreed on by both of us before I can even start the flow of building the content. And there's some things I can automate and some things I can't. Like I've literally been doing this all month.
Would each of those be a workflow step then?
Yes.
Like, okay,
and it is one of the most complicated. I will either like blog post about it for our AI for Anyone Live group, or I'll figure out how to make it like one of our breaks. Maybe like I'll do a little ad spot just for how I built the workflow that is AI for Anyone Live, because it's been over a year and I still don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't have nearly any of it automated. But we're getting closer. So I'm excited. But I do want you guys to know that I am what I would call cheating a little bit, because I did just type into the chat bot that I had prepped saying, hey, this is the example that someone sent in. Can you help me draft some workflow steps to use as an example? So I'm going to put these in. I'm going to talk them through while we put them in. But first step in my mind would be define which population and which policy domains matter, right? How you do that might not matter, but it's a step you need to do. Gather and summarize policy documents, ordinances, and meeting minutes. Build a timeline of policy changes. So what has it been like as you've experienced it, right? Surface secondary sources and news coverage. Verify AI. Oh, I thought I hit go there, but verify AI surface facts against primary sources. I love that it gave us this one, because again, I didn't give a big complex prompt to get these steps. I did it while you and I were talking to make sure I had something to work with for Gabriel to be able to use. And I love that even AI is saying, make sure you have a verification step, especially something as important as policy tracking. I think that's great. And I only have 9 steps for this one. So confirm the timeline isn't missing a repealed policy that still casts a shadow. So is there something you missed? Basically, it's a written in step double check, which for again, sometimes you don't know in as a step. It's just part of that one step. For something like this, I love that their suggestions are going to be, hey, think through whether or not this is accurately vetted. Apply lived/community knowledge to spot what the official record leaves out. That's where I would have failed. I would have known anecdotally. Yeah. I think I wouldn't have thought to put it in the workflow step. Mm-hmm. Judge all of your source credibility and political framing. And last but not least, decide what the findings mean for the org's programs and advocacy. Those 9 steps. Those are really, really vague steps. Let me be very clear. The reason why the monthly or weekly live show one's getting so long is because I am trying to make it so if Tim had to do the episode tomorrow, he knew where to click, what to type, what questions to consider when building the content, how to then build the content in the right brand, and everything in between, right? So I'm being very detailed in it. So now, Tim, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you're going to have to bear with me here, but I want these next to each other. So I will read them. It just makes it easier to see.
Oh, totally. Okay.
So for define which, and I kind of want us to rapid fire these if we could. So define which population and which policy domains matter. Is that human mostly, AI mostly, or is that sort of like a handoff spot?
I mean, I would verify with a human and start with existing data that we've got.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? So go look at all these sources and then parse some of this out, right?
And I think, so it actually noted the one that we built said human. And here's why I think it said human was because to put it into AI, you need to know what your priorities are. So this is literally like define your priorities. AI can help you shape and name those a little bit better. It can verify them and validate them. But this fundamentally, this piece of like defining or prioritizing what's your population, which policy domains seem to matter, come from the prioritization of a human.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen me mute my mic a few times, but my dogs just decided today was the day.
I keep hearing little barks back there.
Driving me nuts. All right, gather and summarize policy documents.
Can I just say the word that matters the most in that green box is judgment. So
yes, here I can zoom in a little bit so we can see it.
Even if the call is, I'm going to go look at sources and ask it some questions, at the end of the day, that judgment is still human. I feel
Absolutely.
like that's a key thing I want to make sure people know. It's not all or nothing. Where it stays yours, you can use AI to help you do that, even just that little bit. But at the end of the day, the judgment is yours, or is humans. Okay, cool.
And I think that's where like we keep things pretty high level on AI4AnyoneLIVE, right? So reminding ourselves, and I think calling those out, Tim, like you did and continue to do, is important, because it's not just where you and I think very literally in some of this, because we would literally hand something to AI because we've got that skill set. What we're saying is, where are you going to try to hand off to AI eventually? Or where are you going to mostly let AI make the call? So to like what you were saying, the judgment piece. And maybe this really needs to be the judgment layer, right? Like maybe that needs to be a better naming for it. So gathering and summarizing the documents, ordinances, and meeting minutes. What do you think?
This is where I get really confused. I would hand that off. I would say, go look through my drive, find some of these things. But ultimately, I'm guessing that a human just knows where they are and is just going to like gather.
I love how anti-responsive. And to be fair, I'm just putting it in where like my conversation said to put it.
Yeah, right.
But I would ask AI to do it. Of course, I would verify, but I would be like, all right, search everywhere. Find all of these things. Be very specific. Make sure I can verify your sources. If you aren't, yada, yada. So I would let AI handle the task, the judgment of where to go and what to pull back to start. I will have to, and that's where like some of the verifying surface secondary sources, verify these AI sources. That's where the handoff lives wasn't part of our original exercise. And that's where like bringing it all together is kind of important, because basically if it's fuzzy, let it live in the fuzzy. Don't try to black and white it. So like building a timeline of policy changes, I'm gonna be honest, I would let AI do that all day. 100%. Here's all the things I like. Here's all the things I agree with.
Right.
Make it into a timeline. I do that like daily.
Well, and also you're like badgering it. Like, actually this one goes in front of that one. Like you're still looking at it and making judgments.
Yes.
But mostly, it's going to do that better than a human most of the time.
Interestingly enough, we've got surface secondary sources and news coverage in where AI assists. And I think it's because the directives should be different. So you're saying, I want you to gather the non-fictional versions, and then not that secondary sources and news coverage are fiction, but they are opinionated, they are biased. And so now don't find meeting minutes that are supposed to be just like an unbiased record. Find what the world is saying, citing, researching.
Is that a better name for it? Like external?
Yeah, maybe.
Like primary, secondary versus
I need
primary?
to find, like a biased and because one's a record and one's essentially like it's meant to show what is the bias leaning towards one way or the other, right? Like that's what you want to find in that search.
I see what you're saying. Got it. Okay. Yep.
Verify AI surface facts against primary sources. There's our first handoff moment. So the seam between human and AI where the work crosses over and where trust is won or lost. So we're going to verify over here all of these sources that we got. Then we're going to confirm the timeline isn't missing a repealed policy that still casts a shadow. Same deal. So we took something that AI did and we are adding, Megan, my brain is exploding. I adore you. We are adding that handoff as a step, right? So that's where, and this is where you get from actually being able to automate it, because you start to build that trust layer in, okay, every time when I prompt it the right way, or I'm using the same skill, or it's using the right, it's learning better. I now trust it. I'm going to be able to watch over it a little less. Then you can start to automate, right?
I think there's something really critical there that humans really depend on this pattern matching, right? When it comes to trust, how do I trust something? You trust it when you practice with it, you see how it works. And I feel like that is a piece that is very hard to explain. We're calling it a handoff here, but really there is what do I expect from it? And how do I, keep reshaping
it's the eval,
expectations?
the evaluation of it.
Yeah, exactly. But there's like light touch eval, and then, this is just like, oh, I'm used to it doing this thing, and I can expect it to regularly behave like that.
Which, if I can call out, my mind was blown, I think, 2 weeks ago when our friend Jason in Upskillerator presented one of his agentic systems.
Yeah.
And he's got it written on, I in my brain, the way I explain it to myself or like others that I was just like mind blown about it was he gamified trust, which is not as scary as it sounds now that I say it out loud. But basically what he did was he made it so when this agent does things correctly, it gains trust points. And then if it does something wrong, it loses trust points, which, like, jokes on us. That's how we work as humans, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so this is like the mini version of what Jason built, right? This is the more manual version of an agentic workflow to say, are we trusting? Because it also allows me to be like, okay, Megan, you're going to go do this workflow. And then I'm going to be the handoff spot. I'm going to be the verifying check. So now I'm wondering, do I trust Megan's use of AI? Do I think she understands what she's looking at more? Like, it is such a powerful way to teach your org AI at the same time. I'm just in love with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to rapid fire these last 3 because I want to at least get a little bit to the pressure test and then send people off not too late today. But applying the lived/community knowledge to spot what the official record leaves out, I think that stays pretty fundamentally human. Even if you're looking at some of these secondary coverages, that's where you've got to, do you have a thumb on your audience? Do you understand the mission and purpose you're trying to serve? I skipped on accident the judge sources. Oh no, I didn't. Judge source credibility and political framing. You can use AI to help you consider all of the possible areas, but ultimately that judgment, as of right now, I agree, should stay with a human, and then decide what the findings mean for the orgs, programs, and advocacy. Again, I would run some AI analysis on this entirety of a report, but then ultimately I would ask a group of humans to sit down and weigh what the report says, weigh what all these things come out to say, and let's talk about what our findings are as an organization.
That's really cool.
I don't think we're not going to walk through this piece completely, but I want to show you how it would work if you guys hop on and do it yourself. So it pulls in a step, right? Verify AI surface facts against primary resources or primary sources. AI makes it faster, so now more is expected of the same people. I don't necessarily, I think you can watch it. I don't think it's, I would never call this a high cost because it's just faster research. Now, if this were faster research for grants and some of that stuff, I think it's different. De-skilling, junior staff lose the reps that use to build their judgment. I don't necessarily think that's true because there's ability in the handoff. I would say manageable. The why bother trap, if AI does it, people stop learning to do it themselves. Again, I think there's so much verification necessary that so long as the whole of the workflow is intact, this step isn't a big risk. And then the equity gap, I would probably argue the same. It helps, helps staff who already have tech fluency in English, others fall behind. I would maybe say watch closely because I think about the people who I Google really well. If we're going to give Google a verb, I do it really well. And I forget that that is not intuitive for some people. And I need to learn how to teach people how I Google well, kind of deal. And similarly, like how do you use research? How do you use AI for, verification and research and some of that stuff? But you can go through all of it and it'll give you each of yours in here, right? So you do all 4 for each workflow step. It's a process. But then at the end, you've got an entire human layer map for your organization. And then you can really save my map. It downloads as a printable. You could print a blank template if you want to do it in person. And there we go. And this is sort of like what the...
It doesn't save. So if you do all of this work, make sure that you do download, right?
Yes. I could probably make it save. No, then we have to add a login and stuff.
Exactly.
Let's not worry about that.
I think the value here is that it actually is kind of a one-shot, here's what you get at the end. And I think that that's got its own value in it. So, yeah.
Well, and some of this, Tim, was built with the process that you and I have been going through in mind, which is it is very hard to get you to sit down and think, okay, how do I do this start to finish? And we'll fill in the details. Yeah. You do steps. Like 1,000 feet high and like 1 inch. You don't do the in-between. And so this is meant for those types of brains, right? Like your C-suite who are like, no. I need to be able to show you, Tim Lockie, this is where your holdups are. This is where your cost options are being hit. And it's not too detailed. I'm not getting in crazy detail. Like, yes, some of these I am, but that would be something I would show maybe my manager, not my CEO. Those sorts of things. Like you really start to be able to pair it up, and this is usable across the board. So yeah, that's
so
May, right?
Know, you're building these artifacts like really rapidly. Like this before, this would take weeks of work, like literally weeks. And I feel like you're building these like you're stacking what you've done before, is pulling it in. I think that's the actual, like there's something really incredible about the way that you're building. Here is where the culture gaps are. Here's where, and then final artifact, here's how you put it all together. I think it's really cool.
Dude, it's so much fun.
Yeah. And I feel like also just to set expectations, and we keep saying this, I have a very different brain than Sami. I don't do what Sami's doing very well. And I'm not losing any sleep over that. Because I think it goes back to, may I be human? Yeah. May I be my own human? Absolutely. In fact, that's the only one you can be. And so I feel like that's really helpful to just know part of why we need culture is because you're going to be the human you are, and you need other humans to be who they are in order for your culture to work.
Which is also why that last equity test is so important, because you do need to consider, I don't need everyone to know how to Google as well as I do. But is that a concern because they can't complete a different task? Right. So like, it's not a concern if Tim Lockie can't do what I can do unless his work, independent of our work, is dependent on it. And then we either need to figure out, does he have the systems in place to supplant or support those areas? Or do we need to rewrite that system? Or is that just not a skill set that the human stack or Tim Lockie is going to have or provide? Right. Like, and those are hard questions to ask. But so you guys can see how this very simple concept can be iterative across the different layers of what you need in an organization. It really does all come down to culture, which is exactly what we're about at the Human Stack. So super fun, like chance for me to see, okay, this has been our brainchild for a year now. What does a full-fledged, like well-developed month that we could put out for everyone look like? And I'm very proud of it. And I'm very grateful for everyone that's sort of like showing up and coming along the way. And I'm definitely excited to talk about next month, because we've got Fine Tune in June. I'm so excited. Tim came up with that one, and I think he and I have different views on it, on like what fine tuning is. And so I'm very excited to see like where we go with it, what we have, the overall, like what fun we have with it.
We're very aligned on, which is that in order for AI to work, you have to go look at the results, make decisions, and incrementally keep making it better.
Yes, exactly. Which, like, plot twist, you're going to see in almost every month, right? Like,
which you do naturally.
So, yes, so fun. So make sure you bring the map you built today, because we are definitely going to be carrying this work forward.
If today hit home, here is the move for the week. Take the blank template, sit down with your team, and map out one real workflow. Like, where are the human stays? What's the AI assist on it? Where there's the handoff? That is the move from this week.
Yes. And as always, stay curious.
Stay human.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.